Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. We just thought we'd give you a quick disclaimer. The topic that we're going to be talking about today may be triggering to some. Some of the photos that you may see, some of the things mentioned, it can get a little graphic. And if you are not wanting to tune into that kind of video, then let's just go on to the next one. Ready?
Ready.
This is how we like to do it.
Hey Unit family, we're here with another video to talk about something that I think is not only going to be triggering for you, the listener who's watching it, but it's for sure going to be triggering for us as we speak about something that we went through in a public space. And yeah, it's our first time talking about it openly, so yeah.
So last year we experienced pregnancy loss multiple times. And it's been very, I would say it's a different journey for us.
Yeah.
Just me as a woman, it's definitely been stretching my faith. Definitely has been something that I've had to, conquer in my mind multiple times. And just for our family as well. Like you get the questions all the time, like, oh, are you guys gonna have more kids? Or do you guys want more kids? Or
are you pregnant?
Yeah, are you pregnant?
Yeah.
Or our son coming up to us and saying like, Mommy, I want a brother or a sister. Or Mommy, I can't see a baby in your stomach. Like he's saying all of the random things now.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be great to come on here and talk about how our faith has really been a foundation for us. Accepting new realities and just like dealing with those realities on a daily basis as we just move forward in our lives after loss. Yeah. So you want to get into it, or
I think you should. Yeah.
Okay, so last year around February, last year last year around February, we found out that we were pregnant. We were very excited. We didn't necessarily plan to be pregnant,
right?
But when we found out that we were really excited. We were just like, wow, like, thank you God for blessing us with new life. And
it was actually our first day when we moved into our new house.
Yeah. Was it last year or the year before? Why does everything just seem so long? Like time just seems like really long for me right now, so don't pay attention to me. It was definitely last year.
Yeah, it was last year.
So we spent our first night in our new home, and for some reason, like, I just couldn't sleep, and I was like, you know what, something's off, my body is off. Like, I figured that my monthly was delayed because of like the stress of just like closing and moving in and getting our things together, and then doing that when Jacob was like a tiny toddler. It was just like a lot. So I thought that possibly like the delay could be because of that. I didn't necessarily equate it to pregnancy, but Holy Spirit dropped in my like when I was asleep, is like, you need to get up and take a test. So I woke up really early the next day. If you're a married couple who are enjoying the fruits of marriage, then you have a pregnancy test drawer. You just have those things around. So I woke up and I took a pregnancy test, and lo and behold, as soon as we're getting ready for church, getting ready to go and everything, I find out that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Kristen comes over and he's like, what's going on? Like, why are you in the restroom this long? And I'm holding the pregnancy test, and he's like, oh shoot.
What?
What? He got like super excited or whatever.
I had to go to church that morning. I was still leading worship that. It was a Sunday. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Sunday. So we find out that we're pregnant. We're super excited. Like, weeks go by and everything. We're like, on the what to expect app and everything. But I don't know, something just, I don't want to say didn't feel right, but it just didn't feel right. So at my first appointment, I wasn't able to get in like at the usual time, like people are able to get in like at 5-6 weeks or whatever. Like, I had to wait a little while because that was like doctor's offices were still like super stacked, and it's just hard to get in. Like, the scheduling is just crazy.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctor's office, my OB, like weeks later, and found out that not only was I pregnant, but I was also suffering a miscarriage, and that my body wasn't processing the miscarriage. So my body and my hormones were still raised and elevated, but my body hadn't processed yet that the pregnancy was no longer viable. So I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? No.
Yeah.
What do you mean that this pregnancy is no longer viable? So they're like, we want to make sure, so we're going to monitor you over the next few weeks or whatever, because sometimes like this can happen or whatever, where your HCG levels will no longer, like, they'll kind of like cap. So we want to make sure that they don't drop. If they start to drop, then we know that you're indeed having a miscarriage and your body just hasn't processed it, and you're going to need a little help in order to pass this or whatever. So.
Oh, was this the place that we saw the picture?
Mm-hmm.
Like, was this the place where we saw the empty sack picture?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, like, context, you got to think, like, we're going to go see the baby.
Yeah.
And,
wait, no. So I didn't talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't even mention that because that was just like that. I was way too early. And,
oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
I didn't even. So
okay,
we were like super excited, like
yeah.
Like when we first found out, and because I couldn't get into the doctor's office, my parents were already coming down here, so I scheduled for us to go to like one of those ultrasound places because I just wanted to see, you know, I wanted to see like how far along we were, because technically we could have been pregnant for a while.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, we just didn't know.
We just didn't know. So I scheduled for like one of those ultrasound places, and then when we got there, she was like, oh, like we can't see anything, like we could see like this like little thing like up there or whatever, but you're gonna need basically to go to a doctor in order to like verify, because honestly this little thing up here or whatever, like say this is like my uterus, like it was like this little thing like up here or whatever. She's like, it looks like a miscarriage, but honestly, you're way too early for me to make that call or whatever. So I'm like,
yeah, that's basically what I wanted to get at. Yeah,
places.
That's basically what I wanted to get at. I think it's a really nice place, whatever, and we're not going to mention the place, but you just got to think context. We're going excited about the possibility of being pregnant. Like mentally, you're waiting for this day to go see an ultrasound, like, and
then they tell you that like you need to basically wait.
So, it's not, that wasn't the best feeling. I'll just say that it wasn't the best feeling.
Yeah. So not only like were we like lingering with like questions in our mind, like, okay, like am I just like way early like she mentioned, or is this like not a viable pregnancy because she mentioned that too, like just like a lot of like unsettlement. And then I wasn't able to get into the doctor's office until like later on that time, later, like a few weeks later. So I go in, and he basically tells me that the pregnancy, he thinks is no longer viable or whatever. So I'm like, what the heck, like, but they want to monitor the levels like I mentioned before. So I go do the blood testing or whatever, wait for those results, wait to go back again. And then when I go back again, he lets me know that, I'm suffering a miscarriage, and that my body still is not processing it because the levels are dropping like slowly, like way slower than it possibly like should, like with like the amount of time it was. So I could, you know, wait weeks and pass it naturally, or I could, you know, go in and have a DNC. And I didn't even know what a DNC was until like I had to like look up more information about it. And at this time, like I'm struggling because I'm like, one, like how is it that my body isn't processing it? Maybe your machines are wrong, maybe your diagnosis is wrong, because I serve God and he is a doctor of all doctors. Like there's no way that he has placed life in me and then has taken it away. Maybe you're just not detecting it. Like maybe something is going on wrong here. So I'm struggling with the thought of like, he suggested having a DNC just because of like how far it was, whatever. I was just struggling with this. So I was like, oh, you know what? Like I'm gonna sit on it for a little bit. I'm not gonna make the decision like immediately, like at that moment. Like I want to go home, I want to talk to Kristen about it, I want to process the fact that I'm even having a miscarriage. And I want to pray about it, because I could be like literally about to have a DNC surgery and it's just not a pregnancy that's like, you know, growing at the rate that you think that it should. Like you're human, you make mistakes. These machines, like you could read them wrong. Like so I had it in my mind that, you know, this baby is still alive, and I don't know, I don't want to make the decision like right off the bat. But I prayed on it and everything, and I was like, you know what, like there's no way that like my levels are dropping to, like, come on Kelsie, like you have to face the reality of it. You're gonna have to make a decision. So I decided to go ahead and do the DNC surgery. And in between the time that it took for me to be able to get the surgery and for my body to say like that something was wrong, there was like more that happened. So not only was I suffering a miscarriage, but I also had blood clotting. And yeah, I had to have like an emergency D&C surgery much closer than the date that I was actually scheduled to. And I just want to advise any female that is listening to this, if you feel that, like, sorry, I'm getting like emotional like thinking about it, if you sense that something is wrong in your body, or like that it's not like a normal feeling, like you need to go and have that checked out, whether you go to the emergency room or not, like, or urgent care, or like you're able to get in with your primary or your OB like as soon as possible. I think you need to go and listen to your body. Your body like will give you the signs. At this time, I didn't necessarily know that these were signs of blood clotting. I thought that these were signs of my body possibly passing the pregnancy naturally, because it felt like labor. All of like the contractions, I want to say the anxiety, like the high blood pressure, all of the things were like present. And this was actually on Easter weekend, and I happened to be at my family's annual Easter egg hunt at my parents' house. And Christian, actually, he serves on the weekend, so he wasn't there.
Yeah, it was Good Friday.
Yeah, it was a Good Friday. And I ended up like literally passing blood clots, and not even the pregnancy, it was blood clots that I passed on my parents' living room floor. And I'll show you the pictures of those right here. Possibly, I don't know if I want to put them out there like that, so they may appear right here, they may not. I don't know. I don't know if I want to just see that all the time. And it was just really hard because when I was taken, my mom had to take me to the emergency room like right then and there, and they took me back because it was just like I couldn't even like stop the bleeding at that point. I felt like the woman with the issue of blood. But they took me back and they told me like, this isn't even the pregnancy that you're passing. This is actually something completely different. You have clotting. Like, this is something completely different. So you're still gonna have a D&C in order to pass the pregnancy. So I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, what is one time? Yeah, like what is going on? Like, not only was I just pregnant, I've also been told that I'm not pregnant. And then the time that it took for like me to process that someone's literally gonna take a pregnancy out of me, like take the unviable pregnancy out of me, and like me waiting for that to happen, like my body just decides to have blood clots too. It's like, God, what are you doing right now? What are you trying to teach me right now? What are you, how is this growing my faith without making me question my faith at the same time?
Yeah, and man, I just remember that call, that FaceTime call, and we had, you know, it was 2 services we had on Good Friday that year, and it's crazy. We had a break in between the first service. Sorry, I'm scatterbrained too, because this isn't just a topic that we would just naturally,
you know, just naturally talk about
this. But I think it's healthy. So anyway, there was a first service we had, and I went to the back and got on my phone. And I was like, man, you know, I haven't heard from Kelsie all day, and I actually called you. I remember your mom had answered, and she was like, Kristen, I'm so sorry. Like, we didn't want to tell you because we knew that you were working. Kelsie's okay. And I was like, first off, I'm already a natural worrier anyway, and anything that's dealing with her, that just put her on the phone. Like that's where my mind went to, like, wait, what's going on? Like what happened? I was like, what happened? And Kelsie's mom was crying, and I was like, okay, something's up. And I know that's not where they were. Like, it was a hospital. So I was like, what's going on? Now, granted, like, in 10 minutes, I gotta go on and sing.
Go minister to people.
Minister for the second service for Good Friday. Yeah, for Good Friday. And I was able to see Kelsie, and what I remember was seeing you had blood on you. And
because I caught literally.
Yeah, it was like on your clothes, like, and I was like, and in my mind, I didn't know at that time, because there was no information given to me because they were still figuring out. So in my mind, I didn't know that there was something else wrong. I knew that with us having a miscarriage, I knew that process was going to have to resolve itself. And so in my mind, I was thinking, oh shoot, like that actually happened at the Easter egg, like, and I'm at the family function, and I'm in my mind, all I'm thinking about is like, man, I can't imagine the space that Kelsey's headspace is in right now. Where's Jacob? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? And so I didn't say anything. I can't even remember what happened. I just remember saying like, I'm gonna be there. I'll call you right back. I gotta go to this service. I'll be there. Like, no, don't worry about it. We're in the hospital. We're taking care of it. I was like, no, I'm gonna be right there. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I just
remember. Just crazy. Crazy.
I remember calling you and just telling you like that I was just so sorry, because naturally as a woman, you're the one that's like carrying the pregnancy, so you feel some sense of responsibility, and the fact that I wasn't able to see that pregnancy through, I just kept telling him sorry, because it's our child. So yeah, long story short, D&C happens and everything. D&C happens, I find out about the clotting and everything, what could have been the cause.
Hold on 1 second.
You okay? Okay, mommy and daddy are doing a video. Can you come back in like 5 minutes? Okay, I love you. So yeah, D&C happens and everything, and I just remember us leaving and you just telling me like, Kelsie, it's okay, like God's in control, and all of this faith talk that honestly I don't want to say like it's like the last thing that I wanted to hear, but that I know that I needed to hear.
Well, it was hard because we were in the hospital on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, right? It was like Easter Sunday.
We were in the hospital.
And it was like everyone knew that something was wrong though, because we have 2 services. Yeah. Well, 3 services on the weekends. We have Saturday services and we have Sunday services, but on Easter there's more than that, right?
Yeah.
There's multiple. So Kristen was there for the Saturday services.
No, I was there for Friday
services,
and
but he wasn't there.
I drove right to the hospital weekend. Right after. Drove right to the hospital right after Good Friday services. Thankfully, thankfully,
you were able to do that.
I was able to do that, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. So he wasn't there for the Saturday and Sunday services, which is like unheard of, like in any church in America. Like if your worship pastor is not there on Christmas or Easter, like something's wrong, or like, you know, or Thanksgiving, like those are like huge weekends. So people knew that something was going on. Like Kristen, I know like you told like your team and stuff, so I was getting like text messages from people, like everyone sending me like encouraging words, and people who have had miscarriages before were like texting and like encouraging me and letting me know that like, hey, this is actually more common than you know. Some people like feel comfortable sharing about it, and some people don't feel comfortable sharing about it. So just know that you're not alone out there. And I just remember like, you know what, like I'm not about to be silent about this, because there are way too many people, and I know like even in marginalized communities, like we don't like to talk about things like mental health. We don't like to talk about like deficiencies in any area. So miscarriage or pregnancy loss, all of these types of things are like not the things that like marginalized communities talk about.
So you wouldn't even know that they go through that.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know. It's like something that is like kept indoors, and we have this saying like in our communities that say like what goes on in the house stays in the house. But also if it stays in the house, you die in the house, and no one knows to come in and help you. No one knows that you need strength that you can't build within each other. Really, so I think it's like that's a dangerous concept. Like I get that like you want to protect your family, you want to have privacy, but at the same time, like at what end does privacy literally like become the death of you? Because you're so afraid to show your vulnerabilities and so afraid to show that, you know, you need help in these areas, or you don't even realize the fact that you can be a living testimony to someone else who may be struggling with the same thing as you, but you may have like a little more strength. I also do realize that the call on Kristen and I are our life, we just honestly are like more open than most people. Hence, we're making a video about something that
even when it's uncomfortable.
We realize that like we will have to be vulnerable, and that being vulnerable is actually a strength in some ways, and that being vulnerable actually allows for us to point people to where our strength actually does come from. So after suffering this first miscarriage, it was very hard for me. I fell into a very dark place of me just being so angry at God. Not that I didn't believe who he was, not me, you know, questioning that, just questioning why me. Like, I'm faithful, like I love you. I literally commit my life, my lifestyle. I train my child this way. I serve and submit to my husband this way. I serve your church this way. Like I'm not like living like I don't want to say a sinful lifestyle, because I am still a sinner. Like, I still need I still need him. It's not that. It's just that, like, when I do sin, I feel convicted about it and I try and do better. I'm not like just living out here just free willing it, you know? So there were like all of those questions of like that, and then it's just like, how are you God of everything but you couldn't be God in this situation? That kind of stuff. Or just like the woe is me, like, why me kind of thing.
Which you have every right to feel that way too.
Like, yeah, and then it was just even hard too, because Kristen is like so strong, and I'm so thankful for you. He's so strong that it was even making me angrier, the fact that this man is just like holding it together. And now hindsight, when I look back, I realized that it was honestly the grace of God just keeping him strong for our family, because our toddler was still very much needy. He's a lot more independent now, but at that time he was still very much codependent on me. And Kristen being able to, you know, carry the load for me and for himself, because he's still dealing with it as well. It's just really just a testament to see how God really, you know, remains a constant in our lives, even when we don't realize that he's there. Like, I didn't necessarily in those times see him working in those ways for our family. But now when I look back, I'm like, wow, like, God, you were so present. It wasn't like, I want to encourage any female who is still like dealing with a miscarriage, or who may have like come up on a miscarriage just as of recently, and you're still processing it, and you're still, you know, trying to keep your faith and still trying to, you know, trust God in the process. I want to remind you that he's still God. He's still your father. He still loves you. He still has plans for you. He still cares about you. And just as a parent would, he understands your emotions. He understands that you may fall into a place where, you know, you're upset, you're sad, you're angry, you're trying to process a bunch of things. But just like a good father would, a good parent would, he's not leaving you. He's still there.
I think a good way to just keep your trust in God in those type of seasons. I mean, because ours was literally back to back. You know, we haven't even mentioned the second one, that ordeal, which we had a few months later. But even in the midst of all of that, I feel like I learned a valuable lesson, and that lesson was, it was to comfort Kelsie, but not try to erase what her raw pain. Like, so I'm a natural fix-it guy. Like, I try to fix everything. And I think a lot of us guys are like that, where, like, especially if you're in the husband role, you know, if you see mama, if you see wife crying, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make it better. Oh, what do you need? I'm gonna fix this. This is the first situation that I couldn't like fix. Like, there's nothing that I could do. There's nothing I could say. There's nothing like, and the biggest thing that I could do is be there, but also not negate her feelings, like,
or yours.
Yeah, or my own. You know, there was many times where she'll never actually even know my honest thoughts. You know, Kelsie asked me a question even before we started this process of like, man, we're gonna share this testimony, you know, because it's still revolving. It's still a healing moment. It's still happening. You know, one of the things that she asked me was like, how did you process it? And I had to like honestly think about that. Like, did I actually process it, or did I just like seep it down to make sure that she was okay, that Jacob was okay, and then when I go on a drive or something, then I'm like, in my mind, I'm rationalizing it, I'm crying, and I'm like, God, like, what the heck? Like, you know, and then, you know, you even have to like, you kind of got to rebuke those thoughts of like, you ever get that feeling when like things are going like extremely well, and then you're hit with something, and then like sometimes you automatically like, I'll never forget. I'll never forget. There was like this feeling that there's something I've been reading recently, and it said that the Holy Spirit convicts, but it's Satan who makes you feel guilt. And all of a sudden, things are going well. We got our brand new house. This. Like God is blessing. And then we're hit with that. And all of a sudden, like there was this feeling of guilt that started coming in like secret places of my life where I was like, what are you doing for that to happen? Like, what did you do wrong? What did you
we got like some people
was
like
what the
asking questions like,
and I was like, where did that
what did you do
like
in order for this to happen?
You may want to make sure that you're doing this. And I was like, wait,
or like, why does your family keep facing
like trials?
And it's like,
and
hello.
And I gotta be honest, that's the wrong thing.
Like,
and that's the wrong thing to tell somebody in that moment. Like, sorry, now I'm gonna get a little ticked again, because that's the wrong thing to say. Like,
one, it's insensitive, and then like you really have to think like, okay, I get that people are trying to understand our lives. Wow, I just mentioned about our son just being a lot more independent. This man came and brought me the ice cream that he wants. I'll get it for you when me and Daddy get done. Okay, go draw me a nice picture.
Ice cream.
He brought me the whole carton. Anyway, he must know that his mama's gonna need it after this.
And Daddy too.
Yeah. So like, it's
in a minute.
For those of you who are watching this and you're just wondering like how to comfort people or how to be there for people, the last question that you ask is, how did this happen? Or why is this happening? Because frankly, we don't know either.
Yeah.
And then definitely don't make it a spiritual thing, because already that person is already like possibly could be in a rocky place with their faith, where they're wrestling with God about even accepting that reality, accepting that he allowed for this to happen. Like, everybody is not Job in these situations. Yeah. So like, be careful.
This isn't something you can rebuke away. This isn't something where I put oil on her head and say, you know, God's, no.
Yeah, the pregnancy's gone.
Yeah, in this specific moment, the best thing you can do is just be there.
Right.
And I'm so grateful that I just happen to have a working environment that allowed me to do that. So there was many days where I was just here with Kelsie, making sure she was okay, making sure Jacob was okay, cooking, doing all this stuff.
Yourself.
And I'm about to get to that.
Don't put it on me, baby.
I'm not. Guys, we do this, right?
Yes.
Where we don't like to be seen as the one that's hurting as well. But it's not even so much just that. It's just the simple fact that we want to make sure that they're okay. And I think that's a valuable lesson even for us right now when you're talking about how are we leaning on God? How are we trusting God? Trusting God in this type of space, it really challenged me to make sure that I had to address even the things that I was dealing with. Because naturally what I would do is just push those aside and only focus on her needs, only focus on Jacob's needs. And then I'm like hurting inside. You know, I remember I used to get calls all the time. Hey man, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm good. I'm just making sure Kelsey's okay. Like not even processing it on my own, like making sure I don't process it, because I don't want to have to deal with the truth that the baby's not going to end up, the baby's not coming home. You know, we're in Kelsey's office space right now. Well, this was the baby's room. Like, we were preparing for the baby. So I'm thinking through all of that. I'm constantly walking through, slamming this door shut because I don't want to look inside this room. Like there's multiple things that just go through our minds as well, as the husband, as the man of the house. But one of the things I would say that it really helped me was, I feel like my prayer life probably increased a lot in that space, and knowing that not only that God speaks, but God listens. And I think that sometimes as couples, we want our spouse to listen. Well, it was the perfect time. Like, I didn't have anybody judging me. I didn't have anybody saying anything back at that moment. God was just listening. I was able to go to God and let him know, like, God, this is really, like, this is jacked up. Like why would we have to go through, being able to talk to God about my struggles, being able to talk to God about my anger, being able to talk to God about my guilt, being able to talk to God about my sadness, being able to talk to God about the feeling of control that I feel like I don't have anymore in this situation. All right, y'all, sorry about that. I had to kind of take a pause real quick. It's just an emotional topic, to be honest with you. And
we're just so thankful for people who are like willing to be vulnerable and open up. Like, our community was like pivotal for helping pull me out of the place that I was in, and just really being like a a strong pillar for Kristen during that time too.
Yeah, and that was new for me too, because like, again, you know, you almost, you know that you've gone through something publicly, but now you want to like heal privately. Like, I don't need, it's not even necessarily charity, it's just the fact of like, I don't want to be like, I'm a person that naturally like, just, I'm very enclosed, like, okay, thanks. Like, I get awkward. Like, I get like,
you are very awkward.
Yeah, I get very awkward about like, it's weird. Like, you could be you could be doing the nicest thing, and I'm just like, oh, thanks, thanks. And I think that that was big for us during that time, like, because we had just moved. I mean, again, we weren't here in Riverside that long by then, and just having a community that loved on us, our older community as well in Bakersfield, and just from all over the country that were reaching out from us, followers, family, community, all that good stuff. It's just good to have that, and I'm grateful that we did have that. But in reality too, I didn't realize how many people actually have gone through the exact same thing. And I had a lot of husbands reach out to me as well, like, man, I've been where you are. Just know that you have a community of men who have gone through the same thing, and we're here if you ever want to like talk it out, even if it's just, if you want to talk out your frustration. I even had somebody tell me, man, if you want to go to the gun range, just shoot a couple rounds. I was like, yeah, you know, let's just go.
You should have invited me. I'm ready to let out. I'm ready to air out. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was ready to air out the first time, but I think the second pregnancy, it just really shook me. It rocked me a little bit, because it's like 2 times, Lord, within months of each other. Like, what is going on? Like, I felt so insufficient within myself. And I felt like there were problems with me. So I found myself like apologizing to Kristen like every day, multiple times a day. And Kristen would just remind me like, Kelsie, like, there's nothing that you could have done in this situation. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just not God's timing, or, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, just, you know, I really needed to hear that more often than I ever have. I've actually always been a pretty confident person, but I think, not being able to do what women were literally created, our bodies were formed to do that, and it's literally like the first command that we were given was to be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth. Like, literally like that, I don't know, it just kind of like rocked me for a little bit, because it's like, dang, like, if you can't even do this, then like, girl, you out here trying to do businesses and you're out here trying to do this, but you can't even do what your body is like made to do. So that kind of like really rocked with me. Like, it kind of shook my identity a little bit. Not my identity in Christ, but I think like just like my inner self.
Absolutely.
And it really took for me to, I don't want to say like air out all those frustrations, but to really like talk those things through. They also have, our insurance actually has like a great counseling program. It's called Maven, and you can go on there, and it's like online, and you can go and you can talk to someone that doesn't even know you. You could be a complete stranger. You can make it anonymous. You can, honestly, you can wear a mask if you want to. You can even make it like a phone call, but just being able to like talk to someone about it. That's one professional that's like literally guiding you through how your hormones have like a lot to do with how you're feeling. Also, just like not bottling those things up. I also think that another outlet for me during that time was actually my podcast. I'm like so raw. Like, I listen back to some of those episodes and I'm like, dang, like I was saying a lot. I think though it was just so necessary for me to do that, though, like my following and like the people that have been reaching out to me on Instagram and just through my God's Girl podcast email, like there has just been so many people that have reached out to me on there just saying like, thank you so much for being so honest and raw and vulnerable about that, because I couldn't even put words to what it was that I was going through. But hearing you talk about it openly, and you know, hearing you get on and seeing you get on Instagram and talk about something that I can't even talk to my own mom or my own grandma about, like is very big. It was a beautiful thing, and it was very reassuring for me when I had people who were like 70, 80 years old writing me on my Facebook telling me that they experienced a miscarriage way back when, before you even had these clear ultrasounds and even like really knowing what was happening, but you knew what was happening. And just saying like, thank you so much for sharing about this. Like that it still haunts them, like not haunts, but it still like, you know, saddens them to this day that they didn't like, you know, get to give birth to that child and get to have birthdays with that child or see who that child would have been. But it's just something how all of the small fundamentals of Christianity really end up upholding and undergirding you in times of turmoil like this. Like, we hear over and over again how important community is, but you really don't know that you need community until like you experience a time where you actually like need community. And it's like Kristen and I, we're people like, well, we don't need friends. Like, I don't want to say it like that because it's like, I don't want my friends to feel no type of way. Don't come for me because I love y'all. But like, we don't like need friends. Like, we literally have fun within our, like, between each other. Like, we can confide and trust each other like that. Like, we have great family structures where our siblings are our best friends too. Like, so the need for like God truly blessed us, and I'm so thankful for that. So like the idea of having to have outside community is like, can sometimes just be like, that's a lot of work. Like I have, like, Kristen has 9 siblings, I have 5, and then I have my girlfriends, he has his friends. It's like, that's a lot. Like, this is a lot to maintain. Or it may seem like a lot to maintain until you realize that, like, wow, like the community that God blesses you with in certain seasons is just like so pivotal.
Yeah, it's necessary.
Yes, it's so necessary. Yeah. So that, and then like just thinking about how important like foundational things such as like being in your word, rebuking your own thoughts, praying and casting down those thoughts and imaginations that present itself against who he is and who he says he is and what his word says. Like, sorry, I'm gonna save it for a podcast.
I love it. I love it.
I didn't have this same, I'm smiling now because I know that God's plan for our family is better than any plan that we could possibly have for ourselves. Yeah. I also smile knowing that, the world that we would have been bringing these kids into is not in any way in comparison to like the glory that they're seeing now. So that's like some solace, like that gives me some solace too. Like, I look around this room and just think like, wow, like this was literally our nursery, and now like for months this room was closed, this door was closed, this window was closed, and we didn't come in here.
It was almost like taped off. Like, you don't come in this room.
Like, you don't come in this room, we don't open this door, and we literally have to walk past this door every single day to get to Jacob's room. So it's like, I never wanted to look in here. And then one day, like, I just felt the Holy Spirit, like, just leading me to open the door, open the windows. Like, you make this room your prayer closet. You make this room your purpose room. You do the things that you love to do, and you bring glory to God in those things, and you'll see yourself start to, like, lift your head. You'll see your shoulders start to, like, relax a little more. You'll see that your strength is in Him. You'll see that, like, He's literally, like, the perfect strength that you need in, like, the weakest moments, literally in, like, your trigger room.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest things, I'll close with this, one of the greatest things that Kelsie, I think did was, there's a lot of great things, but I'm talking about specifically this moment. So we have a kitchen table downstairs, right? And I love that kitchen table. Like, it's become like my favorite kitchen table. And Kelsie's always like, oh man, the wood is warping now, it's turning, I know the foundation now. I know how to build a better one, but there is nothing like that table to me. I came home one day from work and opened my garage, and Kelsie's got a whole entire Home Depot in our garage, like just this entire workstation in our garage. And it made me laugh because I was like, what the heck is going, like, what you doing? Like, it was wood everywhere, paint everywhere, like stuff I've never seen Kelsie even have. And for one, I didn't even know our garage, like her car was just in there. So me getting home, it was just different. And so I was like, what you doing? He's like, I'm building the table. I was like, you what? But it's crazy how, like, in those dark moments you can find purpose in something. And in that space, like, for me, it was a guy that invited me to a gun range, man. Just do something, like, let it out. Well, for Kelsie, it was building a table, like power tools, hammering away stuff, like sawing at stuff, shining it, what's it called? Glossing it and stuff like that. Like, yeah, like just the fact that we have a table now that represents that time period of our life where we're able to sit and eat dinner and dine together. That's one of the greatest things I think that came out of that. The table represents something bigger than me than just us eating dinner. It represents strength. It represents that, you know, there is there's a song, there is glory after this, but really in a sense, like,
there's a balm in Gilead.
It's gonna get better. And for anybody that's listening to this right now, that you may be going through this exact same thing, you're literally in it right now, or you've been in it, haven't had someone to talk to. The unit is here to encourage you to know that you're not alone in this. We've been through it twice in 1 year, and we want you to know that there is glory after this. You may be down right now, and that's totally okay. You may not want to talk about it with anybody. That's totally okay. But know, though, that you do have somebody in us that is willing to listen, that's willing to comfort you, that's willing to be. There's a saying, pass it forward. There's a lot of people that did that for us, and we're doing the same thing now with our testimony, letting you know that we're here for you, and we want to encourage you as well.
Yeah, for any female who may be experiencing this, or you feel that you may be experiencing it, or if you're just struggling to, you know, just move forward after loss, and it could have happened a month ago, could have happened a year ago, 10, 15 years ago, I want to encourage you to find a support group. There are so many support groups out there for families. We love the support group that we joined, the Noel Alexandria Foundation. We love the fact that we get to be vulnerable on calls. We can go to the annual events that, you know, commemorate our babies. Yeah. They may be our angel babies, but they're still ours. Still our babies. So being able to recognize and feeling safe to say that, and to actually say your baby's names. We had names floating around. Like, people ask us all the time, like, what was this baby? Well, did you name the baby? Like, naming the baby is sometimes a coping mechanism for people to be able to put a name to that loss. But we just called them baby Moors, like more babies, because it wasn't just one, it was two. And honestly, we just didn't even get to the space of actually narrowing down a name, so it's just easy for us to call them our more babies. So being able to have a community, though, that even understands the importance of that, and not feeling like you're being judged for how you feel or what you say, or how far along in your journey you are. Even if you're not even able to grasp the words, you just kind of just sit on the call and you just hear other people's testimonies and what other people have done to, you know, really just deal and cope and accept the reality that you lost a child. It's just a big thing. So I encourage you to find a support group, preferably a Christian one, because honestly, there's no building yourself up outside of him. Like, you can find solace everywhere else, but honestly, your true peace is with him. He is peace. Like, that strength that you're really gonna need is gonna be found in God, in your relationship with him. So I want to encourage you guys with that. I'm also going to put links to books that we were given during this time. There's one that really just comes to my mind right now. This girl gave me, she actually ordered it and had it sent to my house, and it's called Deep Clouds, Dark Clouds, Deep Mercy. And I think I said it backwards. I'm having scatterbrain right now. I'm hearing Jacob knock on stuff, and I'm like, he better not be writing on my walls. But yeah, I'm gonna put links to the books that we read, that and Experiencing God, Mere Hope. Like, there are just so many books that are great for you to just dive into outside of the Bible. So yeah, we hope that hearing our gory testimony and seeing our strength and our vulnerability to be able to openly share it helps you to move forward as well, to be able to put those words to how you're feeling, and to have strength to be able to share it, because you overcome by the word of your testimony.
That's right.
So yeah,
till next time, you guys.
I'm glad we did this.
I'm glad we did too. Had a lot of strength in you. That's why I was just watching you. I loved it.
See, he about to get another baby, y'all.